Hey everybody, welcome back to the Senators Roundtable. I'm your host Jacob Billington, and it's just going to be me and you today, Dayton. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, it's a warm one in Saskatoon today, so I've been hiding inside and getting some writing done. It's been really nice.
Good, good. And you just got accepted for credentials with the Blades. Congratulations.
I did. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll hopefully that'll get some more information here in the near future, but really looking forward to it. I've talked a lot about them in the past for any regular viewers of this or Prospect Pyramid or Prospect Corner.
Yeah,
Spoilers. Yeah, no, it's really exciting, and congrats on your own. You were for the Halifax Mooseheads, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. So it should be exciting. Maybe we'll throw in some CHL content throughout the season and see how that goes. But for today, we're just going to dive right into. You released a prospect pyramid a couple days ago, and we're just going to go through what your thoughts are on the Senators prospect pool as it sits today. So I'm just going to run through your tiers. So you have tiers 1 through 5. Tier 1 is a top line player, top pair talent, or better. Tier 2 is a top six forward, top four defenseman, starting goaltender. Tier 3 is just kind of a bit of a wild card. You don't really know what you're going to get. Good chance of making the NHL, though. Tier 4 is pretty much a bottom six player, third pair defenseman, backup goalie, low chance of being impactful, but can play NHL games. And then Tier 5 was just everybody else, mostly minor leaguers used for call ups. Um, your additions were Xavier Bourgault, Jake Chasson, Jameson Reese, Wyatt Bongiovanni, Ian Yanek, Jabril Torre, Philip Bruce, and Carter Yakimchuk, Gabriel Eliasson, Lucas Lenius, Javon Moore, Blake Montgomery, and Eric Wallenius. So that was a lot of just words thrown at you. But let's just get into your tier one. You've done this prospect pyramid over the last couple of years. It's a bit of your niche in the Senators group chat that we have for the page. It's nobody has to ask about it, nobody has to claim it. It's always just, yeah, this is what Dayton's going to do. Um, so I think for the first time in a few years, we have a tier one player. I don't know. I didn't actually go back and look at your last couple, but I can't think of anybody that would have belonged there. But we got Carter Yakimchuk in there now. Do you want to talk about him being in your guaranteed top line talent or better category?
Yeah, I think he brings the highest potential that the Senators have seen since Tim Stützle and Jake Sanderson, who I went back. I didn't put them in tier one, which is wild. I'll come out right now and say that that was a bad call. That I shouldn't have done that. I was just working with the idea that tier one should be reserved for like superstars, like an Austin Matthews, like a Connor McDavid. But those guys are so rare, you can't really make a tier for them. That's like, I don't know, like S tier if you want to do those ranking things.
Yeah.
Um, like it's extra. And this year and last year, I restructured it so that tier one wasn't for superstars, it was for the guys who are guaranteed for a first liner. And I think Carter Yakimchuk is that guy. Whether he's an all-star or not, I don't know, but he brings a super high level of offense. He was one of the best goal-scoring defensemen in the WHL last year with the Calgary Hitmen, and the Calgary Hitmen were kind of terrible. So he was their top offensive guy in most situations. I did watch him a little bit and found some of his decision-making questionable, but I think that will iron itself out over the next several seasons. He is a bit more, I think, of a project than you'd expect with a seventh overall pick, but I think he brings a really high level of offense and physicality that the Senators are going to love. And of course, that right shot, right shot defenseman, you need those guys. He's a first pairing right shot defenseman for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned a bit of a project, and with that, it's he's all offense. You don't have to worry about any of that. I think we talked about this last week. You don't have to worry about any of his offensive development. You said he's one of the best goal scoring defensemen in the WHL. If I'm not mistaken, I can't think of a single defenseman that was drafted last year that had more goals than him in any league. Um, so
Yeah, you might be
yeah,
right with that one.
I could be wrong, but 30 goals for a defenseman, and especially in the junior and the all those leagues around the world that are 60 game seasons. I don't see any other defensemen scoring 60 or 30. 60 would be very impressive. But yeah, we talked a lot about Yakimchuk. He has good physicality too, but again, it's the defensive aspects that you need to worry about. Um, Tier two, top of the lineup players. You have Mad Sogard in there. He's the only one in that list for you. Why do you have Mad Sogard in there, and why is he the only one in there?
So I think Matt Sogard is the Senators' best shot at a goaltending for the future type of guy. He has the size, he has the skill. He's done really well in the AHL. His NHL call-ups haven't gone super smoothly, but also we've talked a lot about how no goalie with the Senators has gone super smoothly in what, ever since he was drafted in 2019. He has a tough go at breaking into the NHL with the Senators, but he has the skill to do it. And I think when he makes it, he will be a starting goaltender. He has the athleticism, he has the skill, and now he's getting that experience. Now the reason he's the only one is the Senators just don't have a lot of top end guys that are like guaranteed top six guys. I think there's a lot of potential top six guys, but they're risky. And so I threw a lot of those into tier three, and they very well could jump up. I've had that in years before. I've been doing this for 5 years. And some guys I've put in tier three have jumped up into more of a tier two type guy. Like I think Shane Pinto was one for me. I thought he would be more of a depth guy. He's not so much a depth guy anymore. He's a middle six at the very lowest. Um, Ridley Gregg, I think, was another guy I was wondering, like, oh, where is he going to be? Will that offense translate from the WHL? It definitely did. So those are guys who I think had more questions, and those questions were answered positively. So they could have retroactively been a tier two. I think Mad Sogard has proven that he's already a tier two and that he will be a top goaltender. He just needs to get there. And I think there's a chance he could be there for 25, 26. Maybe not like winning a lot of games. We'll see. He might need to kind of split duties, I think. But there's a chance if Allmark doesn't resign that they give the job to Sogard, and he could be ready.
Yeah, I think he could be. And I agree. I think he belongs there as well. I think he is going to be the starting goaltender of the future. Again, if Olmark doesn't resign. So yeah, moving on to tier three. I'm not going to go through every name in here.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. And this tier three and four, they're all it's just a bunch of names. There's a couple standout players that I just want to ask you about. So Xavier Bourgault, we've talked about him a couple times over the past few weeks and few episodes, but he leads the top of tier three for you.
Yeah, I didn't mean for him. He's just the first guy I wrote about.
Fair enough.
There's no ranking. That's what the tiers are for.
Yeah,
For those who don't know, I did base this off of, well, I took it over from the guy who used to do it, who based it off of Steve Dangle's prospect pyramid for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, and you try to make it your own after that. And the goal for that is there's no ranking. You just have tiers of where guys could be. So Xavier Bourgault is the first one simply because he is the first one I was thinking about.
fair enough.
Yeah. But he's an interesting guy. He is a former first round pick, was supposed to be a first round pick. It's not like the Oilers reached for him when they selected him in the 2021 draft. Now, they did pass over some guys that they should have taken. Jesper Wallstad, cough, cough. But he was generating a lot of buzz in that range where he was selected. The only problem is he hasn't been able to translate that into the minors, the minor pro and the pro ranks. So I think in Ottawa, he could find that. I think the Belleville Senators have a great opportunity to give him some, great opportunities, some really good ice time, some really good line mates. He will be taking over from Roby Järventie, who was one of their top guys. And yeah, I think that could result in a strong season and some call ups. But he could also flare out very quickly. He, yeah, I think maybe I put him first because he is the most wild card of the wild cards. I think he could be a
That's
top.
fair.
I think he could be a top six guy easy. I think he could bottom out and be a minor leaguer for his career. Those are both entirely possible.
Yeah, and that description perfectly fits for no reason. But the second player on your list, Jamison Reese, he's one that I've been following since he got drafted by the Hurricanes, and I'm a huge fan of his game. What makes you put Jamison Reese? I'm not going to ask you about all these players. I'm just going to pick out a couple and see if there's any more you want to just quickly touch on. But Jamison Reese, a lot of people just will look at his stats page and say he belongs in tier 4 or 5. Why do you have him in tier 3? And for the record, I completely agree he belongs in tier 3, but justify it.
Yeah. I'm very similar for Borgo and for Reese. I think they're wild cards you know, in the exact definition of that. Um, he was drafted with really high potential. He was a second round pick. Injuries played a part in some development stalls. And then last season, he didn't play hardly. He wasn't given ice time. He wasn't given opportunities. And it really stalled. Really stalled his development. He just needs those chances to become that player that scouts and fans saw back when he was picked. I'm blanking on when he was picked, but it was around, I think, 2019.
It was 2019 in the
It was
second round.
2019. Okay.
And actually, Ottawa swapped picks with the Hurricanes to get the Mad Sogard pick.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun story with that. They have their pick back essentially. And they
Yeah.
got it for basically nothing, which is awesome. Um, yeah, I think in Belleville, just like Borgo, he could find that rhythm again, could earn some call ups, and could look really good. He has the speed, he has the offensive abilities, and he's well rounded out his game a little bit more than it used to be. He also might be just on the downward spin of his career and could become a minor leaguer, good minor leaguer, but I don't know if there's a guarantee either way.
Yeah, fair enough. The last tier 3 selection that I'm gonna ask you about, you have Tyler Clevin and Gabriel Eliasson together, for obvious reasons for those who know the prospects. But just justify why you have them again, together and in tier 3.
Yeah, so I think they're very similar players. The way I described Eliasson was he looks like if Clevin's like dials were cranked to the extremes. He's way bigger, 6'7". He had more penalty minutes, and yeah, he was averaging a penalty and a half every game in with his junior team in Sweden. His offense, though, is way weaker. Like that was turned way down. Um, and so I see them as very similar players, kind of like a similar mold, just one has more extremes than the other. Clevin is much more well-rounded, and I feel like even when I was writing this, I felt like this was my hottest take, that he's a tier 3 player. But I just don't see him as anything more. Anything more is maybe a bit harsh, but I don't see him as somebody who could play like a second or third pairing in the NHL as a defenseman. He's a perfect third pairing guy. He's got the size, he's got the physicality, he's got a booming slap shot. That's like I'm blanking on his name, Anton Volchenkov, who was a fantastic depth defenseman. That's who you want. You don't want to spend, 7-8 million on a guy like that. I think that's what Clevin is headed for, and he will be a very successful NHLer. I don't think he's a wild card, but I don't think he tops out as a top 6 or top 4 guy.
Yeah, that's fair. I look at Clevin and I look at his defending. He has a lot of the right strategies while he does it. The AHL is just so much more chaotic than the NHL. The NHL is so structure based. I think that if you watch him in the AHL, you're not going to be as impressed as you will be in the NHL. And that's maybe my hot take. I don't know if that's much of a hot take, but I think his game in the NHL is going to be better than in the minors. And I do think that in a pinch, he can be a second pair defenseman with the right. Like if you put Clevin and Zub out or Clevin and Nick Jensen, I think that that's going to be more than fine as your second pair behind Sanderson and whoever else. But he can't be the go-to guy. He just doesn't have the skill set to be somebody that you look for anything other than a hard shot from the point and physicality. So a third pair spot is the best spot for him. And I agree with the comparison to Gabriel Eliasson. Is there anybody else you wanted to quickly touch on in tier three?
Uh, Not unless anyone stood out to you. Yeah, there's a lot of guys there.
There's a lot of guys there. I think I will throw in one more, and that's going to be Javon Moore. Most people wouldn't expect him to be in tier three, especially drafted so late in the draft by the Senators, and we haven't seen him play since being drafted. So, what makes you throw Javon Moore in there?
Well, he to me is like the perfect description of a boomer bust player. He's highly athletic. He has he had a team leading 26 goals with his high school. He's dynamic. He's creative. He could be a potential top six player in the NHL. He has that ability, but he also is doing this at the high school level. And you never can really tell what a high school player is once they go on to higher leagues. So for a fourth round selection, I think the Senators could have done a lot worse. And I think that's probably one of their more interesting picks after the first two rounds. Um, but yeah, you'll need to really pay attention to him at the University of Minnesota this season to see if he is actually a potential top six guy, or is he maybe not quite what everyone expected?
Yeah, we just talked about this on Prospect Corner. I don't know when that episode is going to be released, but coming out of high school was Jonathan Castagna, and for Utah, and he jumped into the NCAA and had a phenomenal rookie season. So is that what's going to happen with Javon Moore, or is Javon Moore going to end up like a Luke Lowhite and just kind of do fine and then just keep doing fine and level out as not much of a prospect? So I do agree. I think he boomer bust. And I think this is going to be a huge season for him.
Yeah. And I think at least for me, he tends towards more that top end guy. I do see him succeeding in the NCAA. He has that high end athleticism that should boost him, at least as a freshman, and give him that jump start to get that. Oh, goodness. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Nice for the cat to say hello.
No kidding.
um,
Didn't bother me the entire last podcast.
moving into tier four. There's three players I want to ask you about. Tyler Boucher. He is in tier four as a role player with limited impact.
Yeah.
Former 10th overall pick in 2021. Injuries derailed his career for sure. If he was healthy, probably having a totally different conversation. But staying healthy is a skill. What are your quick thoughts on Boucher?
Man, quick is going to be a challenge because I have a lot of thoughts about Boucher. We've talked at length about he shouldn't have been a 10th overall pick. I think he's a potential NHLer, but like he's a fourth liner. And he hasn't shown anything more than that because he hasn't been able to play. He just hasn't got ice time. He hasn't healthy, right? He hasn't been on the ice because he hasn't been healthy. He's been injured or he's been suspended in the OHL. Everything of his career has gone poorly. And I don't have a lot of confidence in somebody who was picked 3 years ago who will come and wow everybody as like, oh, I'm actually a second line winger and you have nothing to worry about. Like that, I think that ship has sailed. I think he still could and very well makes the NHL. And if he stays healthy this season, yeah, I think he has a great rookie season in the AHL. But he's not going to be a star. He's not going to be a top six guy. He's a physical bottom line winger.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't see a huge path to success, at least in Ottawa. I feel like the road's just come to an end. I think he might be a good trade bait, but at the same time, he doesn't have much value. So I don't know what you do. But anyway, we're gonna move on to Matthew Andonovski. I'm I would have Andonovski in tier three personally, just because I think that he had a fantastic defensive season in the OHL with the Kitchener Rangers. But I do understand having him tier four. He's one of those players that you could certainly justify either one. But what made you put him in tier four over tier three?
Yeah, I think he had a fantastic season in the OHL last season. He was one of the yeah, he led the OHL in plus minus with a plus 58, which like that's almost Bobby Orr numbers. That's wild. He played big minutes. He was widely praised by the OHL coaches. He is physical. He is a leader. He can do everything. I just don't think he has a super high potential. Um, I think he probably tops out as a bottom pairing defenseman. But like Clevin, a really good bottom pairing defenseman. Like it's a guy that you don't want to get rid of. And I just think he's not showing that high end potential that would maybe make Clevin a like, oh yes, if you need, he can fill in the second pairing. I don't know if Andonovski's there. He could be in the future. Right now, though, I'm a little bit more skeptical of his potential than someone like Clevin.
Yeah, that's fair. I think his defensive abilities are better than Clevin. He just doesn't have the same physicality level. So I think Clevin is more valuable just with his skill set. But just strictly looking at the defensive side of things, I would take Andonovski.
Yeah, it's a fantastic debate to be in.
Yeah, that's very true. So the last player I'm going to ask you about, Jabril Torrier. So he came into Ottawa as rookie camp last year. He was just a free agent invite, and he kind of impressed everybody and earned an entry level contract. So he's 6'7". Dorian loved those guys, 6'7" guys. But what do you see from Torrier that puts him in a tier four rather than just a contract that Ottawa has? Like, do you see actual potential with Torrier? Do you
Yeah.
see him like what do you see with him?
Yeah, I think this is somebody who would fall into that late bloomer category. He was not playing like even mid-tier competitive hockey until he was like 18. He took a long time to kind of become comfortable in, the 6'7" frame that he is. Um, and once he started to get comfortable and was given those opportunities, he thrived and he quickly became one of the top free agents of the OHL, in my opinion. And so he came to the Senators. They instantly signed him to a contract because I think he proved that, yeah, I can hang with these guys who have contracts already, who are on a path to the NHL. And he was going toe to toe with those guys. He's also a right shot defenseman, which makes him a little bit extra more valuable. He unfortunately was moved uh, from the Sudbury Wolves to the Windsor Spitfires last season, who were
Yeah,
awful. And that was just the unfortunate situation is he's a respected veteran in the OHL, but not a playoff acquisition, unfortunately. So, yeah, maybe didn't have a great end to his junior career, but now he's heading to the AHL. And I think he will have, maybe a little bit of a learning curve more so than some of these other guys we've talked about. But I see him potentially making the NHL. I don't know what the time frame would be, but I think he has it in him to eventually become a solid depth NHL player.
fair enough. Well, I'm going to pass the reins over to you now. You said you have more trivia, and we don't
Always.
have a ton to talk about. There's not much Ottawa news going on right now. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can put me in the ringer.
Okay. Well, you guys got rid of a lot of my easy questions that I prepared.
Oh, great. Now I'm by myself for the hard ones.
Yeah, sorry, there's no Paul to help you out today.
All good.
Um, so I did look up every first round pick that the Senators made since coming into the NHL, and there's 36 of them.
Yeah.
How many do you think you can name?
23.
23? Okay.
23 is my number, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we did talk a lot about them in the prospect pyramid. So
Yeah.
whenever you're ready, no time limit on this one. Just
Okay.
see how many you can name because they get into the weeds a little bit.
They do. Okay.
Don't have to go in order. Don't have to say what position.
Personally, I have to go in order or I'll get lost.
Fair enough.
Carter Yakimchuk,
Yep.
Tyler Boucher,
Yep.
Tim Stutzel, Jake Sanderson, Ridley Gregg,
Yep.
Lassie Thompson,
Yep.
Brady Kachuk, Jacob Bernard Docker, Logan Brown. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. You're at 2015, if that
Yeah.
helps.
Did I get everybody from 2015 to now?
You missed 2017.
2017, I didn't think they had one. I thought Formanton was their first pick in the second round.
There was one guy before,
Oh,
and
no.
he has done so little in the NHL.
Oh, Shane Bowers.
There you go. Yep.
Yep. Okay, 2015. Thomas Chabot, Colin White.
Yep.
2014 was Shane Prince a first round pick?
He was not.
Okay, he was second round then.
Yeah.
Um,
I can let you know they didn't have one in 2014,
all right.
but you're
Okay.
doing very good so far.
Yeah, and this is where I fall right off. Cody Cece wasn't a first.
You sure about
Okay, Cody Cece.
that? Yeah. He was 15th overall in 2012.
Wow. Was
Yeah.
Stefan DaCosta a first round pick?
No, he was a little later.
Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna start jumping around now. So,
Yeah.
Brian Berard. Wow, that's the first one that comes to mind. Um,
95. Yeah. First overall.
Chris Phillips.
Yeah. 96. First overall.
No, Spezza. Yeah,
Yeah.
Spezza.
Second overall.
Yeah. Yashin.
Yeah. That was their very first round pick.
Was he really?
He was 92, second overall.
Okay. Um, I'm missing some big ones. Oh, Eric Carlson for sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think you have over half here.
well, that's good.
I'm not,
That's
yeah. Still a few big names that you can get here.
yeah. See, they just did so good drafting in the late rounds that,
It's
like, I
true.
think of Mark Stone, I think of Daniel Alfredson.
Hmm.
Um, Pajot wasn't first round.
No,
He was third, I think.
something like that. Yeah.
Uh, 2000
I did mention one of these guys already in the podcast.
Volchenkov.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? You said his name, and I was like, I know that's going to come up later.
Didn't intend that. You can think about some of the big trades that the Senators did. Most of those were
Yeah,
with former first round picks.
they didn't draft Turris. They didn't draft. So do I have everybody up to 2013?
Yes. You just
Okay.
don't have 2013.
Yeah. How many games did he play in the NHL?
Um, I'm not sure of that, but I believe his most recent team was the Devils.
Oh, Curtis Lazar.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So 2012, I got 2011,
There was three,
three.
three first round picks in 2011.
Were they all good? Were any of them good?
One of them was good.
Oh, Mika Zibanejad.
Yep,
He had three that year.
he did.
I can't get Stefan DaCosta out of my head, and I don't know why because I haven't thought of him in years. Was Bobby Butler a first round pick?
No, no, he was a little later.
What a pull. Bobby
Yeah.
Butler.
Was he? He was drafted by the Senators.
Yes. Yeah.
Just didn't play very much with them.
I don't think he ever played an NHL game with them.
No, he did. A couple of seasons.
Okay. I
Oh,
don't
and he
know.
wasn't drafted by the Senators. He was signed by the Senators.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where my confusion was coming.
Okay. All right. I think give me the rest and we'll move on to one more question before we run out of time here.
Okay. So working backwards, 2011, you missed Stefan Nazen, sorry, and Matt Pemple,
Oh, Matt Pemple. Yep.
Pemple, yeah,
I should have got those.
yeah. Nazen at least played decent NHL games. Pemple not so much.
He's still doing great in the NHL too.
Yeah, yeah, solid guy. 2009, Jared Cowan, big guy who didn't really pan out. 2007, Jim O'Brien, 29th
Yeah.
overall. 2006, Nick Foligno. 2005, Brian Lee. Just a fantastic run of guys with Foligno in there. 2004, Andre Mazaros. 2003, Patrick Eves. 2002, Jakob Klepis. 2001, Tim Gleason.
Oh, I could have got Tim Gleason.
Tim Gleason, 23rd overall, which I didn't know. 1999, you got 2000, 2001. Martin Havlat was 26.
Okay.
1998 was one of the weirder picks. Matthew Chouinard, 15th overall, goalie.
Right. They picked him twice actually, and he
They
never
picked
played
him
a game for
twice.
them.
Yeah, they wouldn't pay him, so he's like, I'll just re-enter the draft, and they repicked him anyways. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, now you can be a second rounder because that's where we took you.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a jerk move.
Yeah.
97, Marian Hossa, 94, Radek Bonk, and 1993, the most infamous of all, Alexander Dag.
Oh, I should have got Dag. I should have had most of those. Okay. We got 2 minutes. Give me another question really quick.
2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to rapid fire this one.
Okay.
Embarrass myself.
So, here's a tricky one for you. There's only 8 answers. The Senators picked, well, they traded away several first round picks in the last several years.
Yeah.
Can you name who were picked by those picks they traded away?
Nope. Bowen Byram. Bowen Byram.
Yeah, in 2019, that was for Matt Duchene.
Can you give me the pick?
Yes. So this year they traded away 25th overall. Wasn't their original pick, but they did have it. They
Yeah.
traded that for Omar.
Dean Latorno.
Yes. Last year they traded away the 11th overall to Arizona for Jacob Chikrin.
Daniil Boo.
Yep. The year before they traded away the 7th overall to Chicago.
Pavel Menchikov. No.
Nope.
Kevin Korchinski.
Yep. You had the right position.
Yeah.
In 2018, they traded their 22nd overall pick to the New York Rangers.
DeAndre Miller.
Yeah, that was kind of involved with the Brassard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, also added Johnny Tychonik
Yeah.
with that as well. 2014, this was the pick they used to acquire Bobby Ryan,
What overall was it?
10th.
No. Oh, no.
Uh, Nick Ritchie.
I wouldn't have got that.
Yeah,
See, I was going to say Jakob Silverberg, but Ottawa traded him to them.
yeah, didn't really pan out, unfortunately.
No.
They traded the 16th overall pick to St. Louis for David Rundblad.
Yeah, that's Tarasenko.
That is the Tarasenko pick. They made it all right in the end, right?
Yeah.
And then the first one I could find was they traded the 26th overall pick to the New York Islanders for Chris
2008.
Campoli and Mike Comrie.
Yeah.
Which then was then flipped to Columbus and then Anaheim and Anaheim.
Oh no. Is that 2008?
I believe so, yes.
Because I think that was how they got the Erik Karlsson pick eventually. Maybe. I might be wrong.
Might be.
I have no idea.
Sorry, 2009 is actually the pick. I forgot to write down here on my list.
Okay.
Kyle Palmieri.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Everyone could have been a senator.
I did all right. I did all right with that one. But that's going to wrap things up for today. We're about to run out of time here. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you did better than I did in trivia, and we'll see you next time.